Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon. This is Militiaman. I just wanted to give you guys an update. It's Thinking Thursday, and what we did today was I did an audio for everybody, and that's going to include some of the crew members. I think Poppy Peter, we have Day Trader, Militiaman, of course, and Petra. And one of the things we lead into is a talk about the World Trade Organization and how things are converging. And so many of the stuff is really exciting. It's good stuff. But here with me today, convergences of many things happening are really, really important because it's all a bigger picture. It's not just about Iraq. It's about many countries in the region. It's about the United States, not in the region. The United States has significant relationship with Iraq in respect to their currency, and their currency is having an effect from the de-dollarization of the country. And so that's one of the convergences. The pressure from what I see that the United States Federal Reserve Bank has done to Iraq by weaning them off the dollar and changing the auctions to the way that we know it has created an environment where there's more demand for those dollars because there's a lot of nefarious people out there that are trying to get the dollar but can't. And therefore, the people that are forced to go into the street have to pay more dinars for the dollar. So that's the pressure because the citizens are getting pinched for food and services. It's just everything's going up. So to offset that, at some point in time, what we believe is that the Iraq central bank is going to have to make a move to compensate for the U.S. dollar for not being available as much. So one of the other convergences at the same time is we have a political side and financial side of the 2023 budget draft law that's been back and forth through the Council of Ministers, the Ministry Council of Economics, and even the Prime Minister's office. That's one of the convergences on the table because what that's about, the MCOE as it's called, the Ministerial Council of Economics, is a group of many different entities, the central bank, planning, trade, legal, all these different entities that are involved in that have been studying the process to get this 2023 budget draft law done and completed. And they've told us that they've been close. They're putting on the final touches, final amendments, if you will. So that's one of the convergences it's at play. And it's said to be even on the table as soon as this next week. And I think we all know that their next week starts this Sunday. The next thing that's out there is that we talked about and said some convergences was that we got some data that you'll hear about in the audio that explains that the World Trade Organization has had meetings and they've had a paper out specifically that dates back to March 2022. And then later in the year, like end of November, early December, real close, that the World Trade Organization said that they were going to expedite and speed things up for Iraq to have a session to the World Trade Organization. And at the same time, another thing is happening over the last year and a half or so is that there's a system taxation. It's electronic. It's called the ASYCUDA. I believe it's ASYCUDA for those that want to look it up. And then there's also the BUNA platform, which is a digital electronic currency platform that other countries are already starting to use and facilitate trade across borders. And so Iraq will at some point in time be doing the same thing with the digital dinar as will the digital dollar, etc. So these things are really kind of important and they're converging all at the same time. So it's pretty powerful. The U.S. Fed, having done what they did, has created an environment to put pressure on Iraq as a country because of the neighbors that were reliant on that auctions. That money that was being grafted, since it's seized up, is creating some pressure, and we can see that from other outside sources, Iran, through Syria, and some other countries, that their currencies have devalued significantly, and that's been public in the information, in the news sources and stuff but but also when it's created an environment where it puts the country of Iraq, and it seems to be an odd time frame for them to do this, but they've moved some of their military and moved them out of some of the cities and reinforced their police departments. But in the scheme of things, with all these convergences going on in Iraq, gearing to do an exchange rate change, I think that what we're going to see is these convergences come together in a very, very short period of time. And that's being said because of an exchange rate potentiality of a change, because of the need for the hydrocarbon law, the Article 140, the Sinjar agreement. All of these different things are all coming together. The 2023 budget being this next week, the World Trade Organization having had meetings today that included many countries, not just Iraq. They're all waiting for the exchange rate. Now, what we believe too is that the World Trade Organization is not necessarily the smoking gun, but if you combine it all, it gives you an idea that what they're really trying to do is get it to that stage where the World Trade Organization is allowed to come in. It might be 2 days, it might be 30 days, but the point is that they'll need an exchange rate to change for them to do that. But again, back to the hydrocarbon law, the budget, all those things are needing to be changed or amended with the final change that they talk about as soon as possible. And we think that convergence could be at any time. Could it be postponed? Of course. We don't have specific time frames, but bottom line, it looks really powerful and very good. So please enjoy what's on the audio, and we'll catch up with you guys later. Have a great day.
Was written by basically an educational facility, and this article was a different approach that they could suggest Iraq take, and at the same time that the WTO needs to reconsider Iraq's position. They're basically saying there are two different avenues that Iraq could take that gives them a much easier path to ascension. What they're saying is Iraq is taking the normal route, which as there are more and more large economies in the WTO as members, and all of the large economies are there now, they're effectively using the WTO process to take advantage of these small emerging economies. And that's true, because they get quite aggressive, because the submission that comes from these emerging markets goes to all of these major economies. They come in and they all have the agreement right to specifically question this potential candidate on any product that they've got on their list. What they're looking for is, how can I get the cheapest rate possible? And of course, they're using their position, and you want this, well, I need that kind of thing. And it really sucks, is what it does. And there's been a lot of complaints about it. People are beginning to wonder if the WTO has a purpose anymore. Anyway, there were two designations that they talked about extensively. One was the least developed countries. That was actually the least stringent process, and Iraq could qualify for that. Okay, the other was called Fragile and Conflicted Area. And that's actually a World Bank designation that the World Trade Organization hasn't recognized as yet. And that's really where Iraq falls quite well. It matches it quite well because it's for war-torn areas.
Sure, okay.
And between the Iraq-Kuwait war, the Iraq-Iran war, ISIS, I think you could call them a war-torn area.
Yeah, I think they fit the bill.
Good. So anyway, so that's what the paper was about, is as an alternate means to approach the World Trade Organization that would be more advantageous and a much faster process. I think part of the issue is let me back up. One comment that was made, and is very true, is that once this process starts, there's no information released to the public, and that's why they don't update anything in the in their database on the website, because it would give away the position as to where a country is in the process, and they don't want that. By their agreement, they don't want that.
Okay.
So they're never going to update that information, that everybody's looking at.
Okay.
I don't know how this organization got a lot of the information they did, but
okay. So that paper.
That was a bottom line on the paper.
Okay, the bottom line on that paper, and the paper was written in March, was back in March of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. And then if we kind of fast forward a little bit, we saw some data that came out, I believe it was in late November, early December of 2022, which they said that they were going to speed up the process, or we're talking about expediting it, right?
And I think they have been, because Iraq has been working on this information sheet, the products that they're exporting, importing,
mm-hmm.
all of that data, that was submitted more than a little time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's been called interrogatories or whatever you want between Iraq and the members of the World Trade Organization, because they're negotiating, and that's what they call it, is
mm-hmm.
negotiating between the groups.
Sure.
Everybody's looking for the best deal. I've got this for trade. What have you got for trade? You know?
Yeah.
If once that's done, once everybody says I'm satisfied, and the WTO will take a vote to make sure that everybody who has participated in this process is satisfied, then they do the vote for ascension. Of course, they can't do that with Iraq until they have an international rate.
Okay, so then from that time frame, now, if we go from November, early December, real close, that they talked about expediting, and then we get to this week, that they said that they're still working on it with the WTO, and then we have them talking about a meeting today with a group of countries, but one of them was Iraq, if I read it right, that you brought in, right? The link that says the varied countries. There's 5, 6, 7 of them.
Right.
And so some of that information was as of today. So be it.
They said they were going to have a vote. They just never said a vote on what.
Sure. And they also said that they had 6 of 7 items ready to go. 7 on the table. They just haven't. I think they used the word deposit, if I got it right. Something like that. I don't know if that was a terminology. It was different. It was an interesting word.
I don't recall.
Okay, that's okay. Me either. Don't hold me to it. But I found it fascinating that they had said that they were going to speed it up. They said they were going to expedite it. And then now you have this meeting on the 19th, which is interesting. Is it coincidence that other things were going on in the world? Maybe not. Just happens to be timing of it. Therefore, it has never been really a smoking gun, but it's a fascinating circumstance, because we all believe, I think, is that Iraq is not going to go into an international circumstance with the World Trade Organization without having a currency that's acceptable globally for that. And we all believe that, A, you're going to need an exchange rate for the budget. Hence, we have the 2023 budget being said that it'll be back to the Council of Ministers next week. Next week, in their terms, could easily start as early as Sunday, which is only a couple days from now. And then you have the hydrocarbon law in the Article 140. All of those things are related to an exchange rate in some shape or form. And therefore, the timing of the World Trade Organization, because what we have something different now than we had in the past, is the IQD system. It's electronic. And they have that ready to go. I would say that they would probably have it ready to go. And since we believe that the negotiations likely got started quite some time ago, But we have an article that specifically says the reasoning behind it, how the fast track, if you will, I think that's our words, but they said it speedy and expedite, okay, was because they mentioned Sudani. It was because when he got into office, let's go, they started that process to speed it up. And so that's why it's a fascinating time frame, because what we are is the convergence of the potentiality of going international, which would be needed to be with the World Trade Organization's trade, and then you need it for the 2023 budget, and subsequently the other items I mentioned with the hydrocarbon law and the 140. So that's why this article that you brought in, or the link to what was happening, the timing of it is it's compelling. Not that it will happen, because the World Trade Organization could go out to March possibly, if that's what the writings suggest in their disclosures or whatever you call it. And so to me, it all looks good, and it's tying in.
Everything we're seeing is converging right here.
It's amazing. I'll
right
tell you.
now.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You can think about it. You go, "Wow, you're right, Militiaman. I don't think you're wrong on that." Yeah.
Quick comment, Day Trader. You mentioned the two criteria for ascension, the two processes for ascension, and we mentioned the latter one being the war-torn countries. I think Iraq created that category, so that's why they started it in the WTO. I'm being facetious, of course.
I think I caught that.
Yeah. Number two is the fact that if you look at Iraq as a whole, with all the reserves, gold, oil, assets, rare earths, they have got to be in the top 25% of all the people in the WTO today. So as far as assets, and so I would think ascension would be easy and quick once voted upon. And Militiaman, I would lean towards March. Today, I would lean towards March because, again, the criteria is they've got to be Article 8 compliant and have an internationally tradable currency. Now, if they were to do that in the next week or so, then March could be a lot sooner. It could happen in February. But I think it's safe for everybody to say March, but we all know that it very well could be sooner than that.
There's one more thing, and this is the first time that I'd ever seen it, and that is once the whole membership takes a vote and approves a country, there is a 30-day waiting period before it's implemented.
Okay, good. Okay. So there you go. That supports what Petra just said.
Yep.
Poppy Peter, you have a view?
I listened and love listening to Day Trader there. And agreed it. Yeah, 100% agree that.
Good.
It fits perfectly.
So
it does give them a little bit more of a giddy up to get the international rate and get Article 8 compliant and get that over the line so they can join the WTO. And we know that the WTO are going to fall over backwards to accommodate them because Iraq sharing six borders and, I don't know, being 94% import country. The WTO are going to make oodles of cash money from it. So they're going to want them on board as soon as possible. So, lovely.
Good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, good deal. And if
if you look at all the
thanks, Petra, Day Trader, Pompey Peter, good conversation about the WTO. We appreciate your guys' time, and we'll just wrap it up, and we'll all have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.